What's up? What's up? I kind of just want to yap about Maypul a bit in Rivals 2. The video isn't going to be scripted or anything, I'm just kind of going off the cuff, but yeah, in the anticipation for the full release on October 23rd, I thought I'd just chat a little bit about my girl Maypul. Probably going to end up maining her. She feels really fun to play, I gotta say. You know, crazy fast, really good movement. She's kind of like I mean, obviously, like, kind of a rushdown trap hybrid character if you're familiar with how she works. But she feels nice, really nice. You know, coming from a melee player who mains Fox and Falco, she kind of reminds me of Spaceys, and that might sound kind of weird because we've got Zetterburn on the screen right now, and obviously he's like the de facto Spacey, having a shine and whatnot, but like, I guess she feels like Spacey's in the way where like she's clearly meant to be like fast aggro rushdown, but the way she goes about it is a little different from a character like Zetterburn, who's gonna more traditionally be doing like shines on her shield and stuff. Like, she can kind of sort of do stuff like that. She might have a little bit of other characters' DNA in her too, but anywho, besides the point. So yeah, I guess starters, how does she work in general, right? Like I said, she's rushdown, trap kind of character. She's fast. Really, really fast. Like, her ground movement is the fastest in the game, except for Raster. He uses his side special, the like slipstream thing. I think that makes him faster, but just kind of naturally, by default, she's like got the fastest ground movement out of any of the characters. And as far as gameplay-wise, or like, I guess game plan-wise, rather, that's pretty significant because, you know, we're talking about rushdown characters. She's going to be able to threaten things like just run up raw grab from ranges that might be harder to react to, or she's going to be able to like punish laggy stuff from ranges that no other character really can. I think that's pretty significant because if you know how her like tech chasing game works and whatnot, that's kind of a core foundational part of how she builds up her damage. So just having more of those opportunities to really get those grabs out of neutral is pretty significant, I would say. I wonder if I can get an example here. I don't know, like let's say Zetterburn is throwing out like a smash attack or something and I'm over here. I can probably just like dash over there and grab at ranges that other characters might not be able to do as effectively. So she can really pretty consistently threaten something like that to get her offense started, which I think is a pretty big deal. She's also got some pretty darn good aerials, I would say. This is her Nair. It kind of rotates her in place. It hits on both sides. You can kind of edge guard far off stage with it. Still make it back. Her forward air, this is kind of like it's a spike, so it's kind of like a Mario or Yoshi forward air from Smash Bros. Not as much end lag as those moves, and maybe not as much knockback, so what you might more commonly see is like doing 2 forward airs off stage to seal out an edge guard, something like that, whereas, you know, characters like Yoshi would only do 1. I really like her back air too. It's a double hitting move. You can almost do like reverse aerial rush and kind of zone with this, control space, kind of like Puff might in Melee. This can be a decent damage builder. It can be decent for positioning. Seems pretty useful if you ask me. This isn't going to be like one of your get in their face moves, or forward air might be more useful for that. One other thing I should mention about forward air, I've heard it's safe on shield, so it can be, you know, a pretty reliable way of starting your offense if you want to approach, but you don't want to fish for like a raw grab or something. You try to throw out a forward air on their shield. If it hits, great, you can go right into a grab or something. If they shield it, like I said, I believe it is safe on shield. So if I remember correctly, it's like -4 which should be enough to let you get out of the way of things like shield grabs. You can like dash back, maybe spot dodge, and try to punish shield grabs that way. So overall, seems really useful just in general for getting our offense going, and of course for edge guarding, like I said earlier. Yeah, you can almost kind of treat this might be one microcosm of how she's like Spaceys and Falco in particular, is you can do kind of sort of pillar combo-y stuff with like forward air grab. Might be too high percent now, but you would essentially do like forward air, up throw, forward air again, and that's kind of your up down, up down. At this kind of percent combo tree wise, I might transition into more like up throw, up air type stuff. Try to get your pillar combos, maybe you build them off the top, something like that. But yeah, now that Zetterburn's at 0, I might do like forward air, up throw. Oh, that was a down air. But yeah, that's the general idea. You do forward air, up throw, regrab, forward air again, ideally regrab again. She's got a pretty flexible combo game, it feels like. Like, you can be pretty creative. But if you just want like typical bread and butter stuff, I'd say most of the time, you know, low percent, you do forward air, regrab. Maybe you go for like tech chase stuff as well. At more medium-ish percents, that's when you can really start like your up air ladder combos. That kind of thing. Talked a little bit about her up air. This is probably like her main damage builder, as well as your main way of like poking from below platforms. It's really what it's useful for. It's also really useful for her recovery. One fun fact you might not know immediately going into Maypul is her up air gives her extra height on her jumps. Like, this is her default full hop, and this is her full hop with up air. This is her default double jump, and this is her double jump with up air. So you can see it gives her just a little bit of extra height, and that can be useful if you're off stage and trying to recover. But yeah, like, I used the forward air example earlier. If I'm recovering back to stage, maybe I up air to get a little bit of extra height on my recovery. Or if I want to do more proactive sharking from below, up air gives me a little bit of extra height I might need. So if I want to... This can actually be used on this stage, at least, to kind of poke at the top platform without committing to going up there. So that can be pretty useful. Like I said, Nair is good for just kind of a get off me tool, maybe like forcing people off stage. Forward air is a spike, can be good for applying offense. Back air might be good for zoning. Up air is good for building damage, combos, sharking. Now her down air is one of the most unique downers I've ever seen in Platform Fighter. Because it's not like attached to her body. This isn't like I'm throwing out like my arms at you or my tail or something. This is just a root I summon out of the ground, right beneath wherever I am in the air. Now, this is really interesting, I think, because this is a very low-risk option you can just kind of toss out in neutral, or when you're recovering. Or if you're trying to get down, maybe not when you're recovering, like, off-stage per se, but if you're trying to get out of, like, a juggle, if someone's sharking you, like, way up in the air, you just kind of cover your landing with a down air. Really hard for them to deal with and react to. One other, more situational use, I suppose, I have for down air is I'm going from platform to platform, and I want to cover my landing. Maybe I just toss out a down air to, like, keep my opponent in check. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, like, I think it's only 5% there, and it doesn't do a whole lot of knockback either, so it's not, like, definitely not a kill move, and, like, maybe situationally you get, like, a tech chase off of it or something. But I think it's really more just, like, a way to, I guess, overload your opponent's mental stack, keep them honest, and like I said, it can be really useful, I think, for just, like, covering your landing if you're trying to get down from being sharked. I think that's the main use for this down air. And for that, it's pretty darn useful, because, like, there's nothing really like it, and it's just something pretty unique and novel that your opponent has to keep in the back of their mind. I don't know, like, if it gets parried, how unsafe it is. Probably, like, dependent on the spacing and whatnot. But even if they try to go for a parry, you have to keep in mind that's a read on your timing. So, like, I could do a down air that late, and, like, still covers my landing. So as long as you're mixing up the timing of your down air, if your opponent tries to parry and they mess up, they're leaving themselves wide open for a counterattack. So I think more often than not, this is worth going for to cover your landing at the very least, as well as just to kind of toss in here and there as you're floating around from platform to platform, or just like getting over your opponent and trying to just tack on a little bit of extra percent. And like I said, maybe you get like a tech chase off it or something too. So, can be useful for that. Guess I want to talk about her grounded stuff a little bit. Her jab's kind of interesting, because she doesn't have a third jab, it's 2 hits. So, it might not seem as useful as some of the other characters' jabs on the surface level, but you have to remember one of the key traits about this game is you can cancel your jab string into any of your tilts. So that means you can do things like jab, jab, forward tilt. That can be a nice little way to just contest space. And at this percent, almost killed, but yeah. If you want more of a launcher, jab, jab, down tilt. Again, might be a little high to combo at this percent. But yeah, honestly, I think that can be another good way of getting your offense started if you're on the ground. It's just doing like jab, jab, down tilt, or jab, down tilt. You can almost treat this kind of like a hit confirm in more traditional fighters. Jab, jab, up tilt might not reach, it looks like. Up tilt, compared to her other tilts, it's interesting because it's not gonna hit from below platforms like something like her up air might. But the real benefit of up tilt is it hits on both sides. So if it's kind of ambiguous what side you end up on your opponent on, that's when up tilt might be useful. But I think just for like general grounded pressure, like jab, jab, down tilt might be a nice way to kind of get your offense going. Of course you can mix that up with other stuff too, like maybe you go for jab, grab, almost kind of like a tick throw in traditional fighters. Something like that, and then you get your up airs going. So she's got options on offense. That's, you know, paired with like your forward air stuff, your run-up grabs, whatever else. So she has some interesting options. What I like about down tilt in particular, by the way, if you look at it visually, it kind of reminds me of Fox down tilt, honestly. Not as powerful, mind you, and maybe not as much range. But if I remember right, the frame data on it is actually insanely good. Like, I want to say frame 5 is when it becomes active, and that's like tied for fastest tilt in the game. Excuse me. Frame 5 down tilt, having a frame 5 launcher, just like that, then you can like go off stage and try to edge guard or something. Kind of a big deal, I think. Just being able to potentially set up a launcher, an edge guard, whatever combo off of that. Alternatively, I believe forward tilt is also frame 5. So if your goal is more to just like build space, maybe you do jab, jab, forward tilt. So having 2 frame 5 tilts is a pretty big deal for just general grounded offense. Let's talk a little bit about her specials, and maybe we'll get into some of her plant friends as well, because I think this is where the trap side of things really comes into play, and this is kind of what gives Maypul that little bit of extra spice and kind of just adds to her overall kit and makes everything melt together a little better. So her neutral special, or neutral B, she throws out a little, I don't know what this is, a seed, acorn, something like that. But you can see like decently quick startup, and it goes pretty fast and pretty far, at least compared to some of the other projectiles in the game. This isn't something you're going to want to be using to like build damage necessarily, at least directly, or like You're not using it for the knockback. You're not using it as a traditional projectile, I guess. But the idea is it applies the mark effect to your opponent. And the mark effect is important because this gives you a couple different options. First of all, if you smash your opponent, they're trapped in place and they get marked. You can do things like get an up tilt started, get a combo going. Maybe at higher percents, you do a smash attack, another smash attack, and that'll kill them at high enough percent. That's not the only thing you can do with the mark, though. You'll see right below my 0%, it says tether A plus B. That means I can tether to my opponent when I mark them. If I'm all the way over here, it doesn't even matter. I just zip right over to them. This can be a really useful way to mix up her recovery because her recovery options, she's got a couple. Like, this is her side B. You can use that to kind of help her gain some horizontal distance. When she's in the air, her down B looks like that. It goes straight downwards. You can use that to mix up your momentum a little bit. And she's got an up B. It's got some height to it, about as much height as her full hop, I would say. Which is honestly, like, her up B in a vacuum does not seem all that useful as an edge guarding option, and you really kind of have to pair it with everything else she's got in order to get the most out of it. Like, you can make it back with your up B if you have other resources at your disposal, but just in a vacuum by itself, you don't get a whole lot of height out of it. But what really kind of helps her recovery is that tether, because that just kind of warps you back to the stage no matter how far you are. This feels like an opportune time to start talking about her plant buddies, because there's kind of a lot you can do with them. So this is Lily, this is her down special. If you try to do her down special again, what? Nothing happens, because you already have Lily set up. You can set up Lily on platforms, on the ground, pretty much anywhere you can stand, like on the stage itself. And what Lily does is, if you hit them into her, they just get hit, like that. So you can set up some pretty interesting combos off of that. You can do pretty standard stuff like this, maybe, and then you get that going, get a kill off of it. Oh, that didn't kill, never mind. But that's the general idea. There are a couple different philosophies about where you want to place Lily. You know, do you want to put her on the ground? Maybe force your opponent to try to jump. Imagine your opponent's on ledge here, and they have to deal with Lily. They don't want to go run through Lily, so they're going to jump up here to platform. But if they jump up here to platform, boom, you smack them with an up smash, you kill them. Something like that. Maybe you put Lily up here to cover the platform, so that now you can threaten the ground game with your ridiculously fast movement, go for a raw grab. So, there are a couple different options you have with Lily. I think she's pretty interesting. You can kind of toy around with her and figure out what works and what doesn't. So that was one of Maypul's plant friends, Lily, down special. Oh, one last thing I want to mention. If you get marked, I don't know if I'm going to be able to set this up, but if you get marked and you run into Lily when you are marked, you get trapped again, and then you can get smash attack and die. So Lily can also trap you as well as just any of your 3 smash attacks. So that was Lily. She's one of the 3 of your plant friends. Your ledge special is named Terry. Terry is another plant friend. And what's unique about Terry is you can tether to Terry. You can obviously tether to your opponent anytime they're marked and recover that way. You can also tether to Terry. If I want to go really aggressive off stage for an edge guard, oops, I went a little too far there. But like, let's say I have enough time to grab ledge, set up Terry, I want to go really far off stage, I can recover back to Terry, and I'm just fine. So you can get pretty aggressive with your edge guarding as long as you have Terry set up. Terry, you'll notice, also put out a little bit of an attack when you first use him. He spins the sleeves around. Also, if you throw your acorn or seed, whatever, at Terry, they'll redirect the seed in kind of this arc towards stage. That can be pretty useful. You can do a similar thing with Lily. She'll send your seeds directly upward. So, if you're trying to catch your opponent from different angles, you've got some different options with your clan friends. Just waiting for Lily to go away. So yeah, if your opponent's just like trying to play evasive, not get marked sitting up on the top lat, you can still snipe them as long as you have Lily lined up. You can still hit them with the mark. Also, you don't have to use your C to mark opponents. Your side B can also mark them, and your down B from the air can also mark them. So your down B looks a little different. On the ground, your down B sets up Lily. In the air, your down B is a dash straight downward. And that, as well as your side B, can mark your opponent. So there's Lily. There's Terry. Plant friend number 3 is your special pummel. This is Poppy. Poppy's interesting because she changes how your seeds work. If your opponent has Poppy on them, your seeds now will pull them towards you. It's kind of like a vacuum effect. So this gets really useful because this lets you get combos going. You can go into stuff like that. And that all kind of synergizes with the rest of her kit and lets you build up some of your more, it just adds more options than you already have for getting damage built up, looking for kill confirms, anything of that nature. I think the only other thing I haven't really mentioned that I wanted to is her smash attacks. I talked a little bit about them, but compared to most of her other attacks, like I talked about her frame 5 tilts and stuff, she's got pretty fast options in general. She's got a pretty standard frame 7 grab. So generally fast attacks, fast movement, hard to deal with up close at least. But this is where her smash attacks kind of break the mold, because you'll see they've got a bit more startup to them. They're not as immediately threatening as something like run up down tilt might be. But what they lack in speed, they make up for, first of all, in range, and second of all, in kill power. That reaches way further, and you see that knocked down at, I think that was 6% before the hit. So these can start knocking down decently early. And like I said, they've got a little bit more range to them than some of our other attacks. I talked about the Lily setup earlier, where you set up Lily here, they want to jump up here, boom, they get up smashed. So that can be, you can kind of experiment around and figure out what works, but I think smash attacks are just a pretty useful, I think they're useful in the sense that they provide kind of an alternate function from the rest of her kit, whereas everything else is really more like fast, hyper-aggressive in-your-face stuff. Now, I'm calling you out for maybe having a different timing on your options. They're a little bit slower, but they got more range to them, so it can be pretty useful. And like I said, if you get marked, you're just kind of dead to rights if you get smash attacked. I think that's about it. One last thing I want to mention, actually. This is just kind of a little fun fact to keep in mind. I want to build up a little bit of percent first. So as far as her throws go, most of the time you're going to want to be up throwing, because that's what gets your up air ladder combos going. You can go for like forward air tech chasing off that or whatever. You can go for forward throw. It's just kind of a pretty standard positional throw. I think back throw is kind of the same. But the throw I really want to talk about is that, her down throw. Because what happened there, if you noticed, is if you're by the ledge, you just throw them straight down, and if they're at high enough percent, they're just dead. Which I think is really funny and kind of crazy. If you do it just on stage, like normally, it's more of a tech chasing option, maybe a jab reset or something. But if they're by the ledge and you down throw them, they go straight down, and then you can try to edge guard them, or if they're high enough percent, maybe they just die outright. So, I think that's just really funny and cool to keep in mind. That if you're applying all this pressure, you have Lily set up, they're kind of paralyzed, they don't know what to do, boom. Now you set up something like that, and then you can edge guard them off that. So, yeah, really fun character. Looks like she has a lot of options, which I really like. And yeah, like I said, kind of plays that more rushdown, trap hybrid playstyle. Kind of reminds me of Spacey's in the sense that she has a lot of options and she likes to get up in your face and play offense. But she's not as similar to Spacey's, like, verbatim in the same way that Zetterburn might be with his shine stuff. So yeah, I think Maypul's going to be a force to be reckoned with in Rivals of Aether 2 when it comes out. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye.